going on, party people? So I got a bunch of really heartwarming and incredible, comments and a ton of support from you guys, and I really do appreciate it after yesterday's review. I also got a few questions from people who asked me, like, how do those watches actually realistically help you, though? And I thought that I did a decent job kind of explaining it, but maybe I didn't. So I'll try to clarify a few things, and we can talk more about my various Casios in my daily rotation, and also I'll be doing a Q&A today for whoever wants to show up and ask me a question. It is 4:38 p.m. Let us get down to business. So, okay, I in yesterday's review told you that my view on my watch collection has kind of changed, and it's not that my interest in watches has changed. So that's the first thing I kind of wanted to clarify, because some people wrote to me asking if I just don't I don't like the greater watch world anymore, and if I've just become a digital collector or a Casio collector. And that's definitely not true. I have the same interest in watches that I have had. Of course, I think interests are cyclical. So for instance, sometimes I'm really into a specific complication, then sometimes I'm very into a specific genre of watch, and then sometimes I'm very into a specific, I go down a rabbit hole of a vintage brand and so on and so forth, or maybe even a specific color dial I find myself fixating on. But for the most part, I was kind of following that trend, and I still am. The difference is that now I think found a deeper appreciation for a specific segment of watches, and that is kind of the durable, more affordable, Casios. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do, however, really want to pull the trigger on a specific Citizen. So I think I might be getting that soon. And then people have been begging me to get a Garmin. And I know that there's the Garmin Instinct Tacticals seem very, very cool. So that's something that I also want to take a look at. But even so, the Citizen that I'm interested in and the Garmin Instinct Tactical, those also kind of follow similar, I guess, parameters when it comes to my daily Casio collection. Except the Garmin and the Citizen, they're a little bit more expensive than the Casios that I shared with you yesterday. By the way, Linky is here. So then we get into the question that I got a few times in the comment section of yesterday's video, where people were like, well, how do the watches actually help you realistically? And I even said in that video that, I'm not expecting the watches to heal my leg. I don't expect these watches to somehow take the pain away from me from this recovery that I'm going through. But I will elaborate a little bit. Okay. So the reason that these watches, everything in this box, here, again, shout out Bravo Watchwear Studio, everything in this box, and what I have on my wrist. These are watches that I know are running, right? They are all running. This one's the only one set correctly at the moment, and that's because I got this one right before daylight savings time, and then I've been wearing this one kind of exclusively. So all those are an hour behind. But they're all running specifically, so I don't really have to worry about that. They're all very durable, and I'm a little bit I walk with an inconsistent gait. I'm a little bit wider than I normally am. So what I mean by that is, and this is what I'm working on in physical therapy, instead of shifting side to side with my limp to try to move more forward, which is a more natural walk. So when you're shifting side to side, you have a wider kind of hitbox, so to speak. And I'm kind of, bumping into a lot of door frames and tables and chairs and stuff. And so having a watch that I know can take a knock is kind of important to me. And then someone brought something up in the comment section yesterday, like, well, how are those watches any different than a watch that isn't, quote, I'll say crappy? I swear on my other channel. I don't swear on the Time Teller channel, or I try not to swear on the Time Teller channel. But the person was like, well, how are any of the watches he mentioned any different than a watch that isn't crappy? And he went on to say, I don't have any issues with my Omega, and I feel the same way about my Omega that he does about those. Just wear like a good solid watch. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I get what he says. But allow me to elaborate, okay? There are watches that are mechanical watches that aren't Casios. There are watches from, Omega, from Rolex, that are tough, durable, can withstand a knock. They're legit tool watches. But here's something that I didn't bring up in the video that I will bring up with you right now. And this is where we get into kind of like the little pity party, which is what I don't want, right? But I will humor him a little bit. And this live stream isn't me combating this one dude. It's just to give, I guess, a little bit more perspective here. This person is speaking, I assume, from a perspective of someone who thankfully has their health, okay? And is not encumbered or inundated with a life filled with medical procedures, scans, doctor's appointments, physical therapy, so on and so forth. And many of you people that are watching this now and perhaps listening to this in the future may have a bit more of an understanding of what I am going through, because this isn't exclusive to me. Many people out there, unfortunately, have regular medical appointments, regular medical procedures, regular medical check-ins, regular, physical therapy appointments. And so here's the thing. Since the initial injury happened, boy, I've been scanned more times than a freaking barcode. Like, it's insane. I have another bone density scan coming up. Nerve scans, sensitivity tests, x-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, you name it, I've done it. And I have more of those things going on. And guess what? With each of those procedures, I cannot wear a wristwatch. So there's kind of two things that I can do. Either leave a watch at home or wear a watch to the procedure and have it removed and placed in the care of someone at the facility. All right. Until, I'm done with the procedure and then I get the watch back. Let's explore both of those. Option one, just leave a watch at home. I don't want to do that. All right. I don't want to do that. I want to hold on to some sense of self, right? This injury has drastically changed my life. It's changed the way I view the world, and it's absolutely changed the way I view myself. It's changed, how I physically look, how I physically feel, and it has taken away things that I've really identified with. Weightlifting, that's pretty much gone, and that was something throughout my whole early adulthood into right before the injury was like a huge part of my life. Huge part of my life. That's where I met Sammy, was in the gym. Driving my cars, right? You guys know how into that I was. And there's a huge crossover with wristwatches and, the car community and everything. Pretty much took that away as well. So these things that were like big identifiers, things that I really saw myself in, were kind of removed, right? So wristwatches, that's kind of the last thing. I don't want that taken away from me totally, but look, it's also changed how I what watches I wear and what watches I buy and this and that. So I don't want to, with how many doctor's appointments I have and procedures consistently, I don't want to not have a watch on my wrist and have that taken away too. So no, I'm going to wear a watch to the procedure. So that leaves me with option 2, which is the watch will be removed and left with under the care of someone at the facility until the procedure's done. And here's the thing. It's not that I don't trust those specific people. It's that I just don't trust people, right? So while your Omega or your, Rolex sports watch is just as tough as the watches I mentioned, can take a good knock and this and that, I don't want to leave my Submariner under the care of someone I don't know with amongst people that I don't know who has access to what at what time. I just don't want to do that. So these watches that I mentioned, yes, they're tough. Yes, they're reliable. Yes, they're resilient. Yes, they're always running, but also they're pretty easily replaceable. That's not to say they're disposable. It's just that they are replaceable. And I feel more comfortable. Even this Mudman that I absolutely love, that was given to me by Sammy, I would feel more comfortable leaving this Mudman at some facility under the care of who knows who, versus taking off my Reverso and giving it and leaving it there until the procedure's done. I just don't want to do that. I just don't want to do that. And I suppose I could just settle for option 1, which is just don't wear a watch to these appointments. But what's the fun in that? What is the fun in that? I don't want to do that. By the way, if you see me moving around, it is because of what I'm going through at the moment. So it's not that I am super uncomfortable with what I'm talking about, so I'm fidgeting. It's because I have really bad pain impulses that kind of I can't really sit still. It's strange. Anyway, going to the chat, Robert M is here, says, hey bro, we got baking soda. Says, hi papa. Doug Rosenthal, something to be said about having a simple design on a watch. Just picked up the Tudor Ranger, great watch. And I know it's extremely expensive, but I've come to appreciate a plain old 3-hander as I've gotten older. Amen. Inland Watch Review says, durable watches that don't require a winder, accurate and dependable. That's a lot of functionality. Amen. Rob Brown, Plain Spotting, says, greetings from Scotland. Org says, Doug, agree with the watch I wear most is my Zin 556. Excuse me, love that. Small, simple, doesn't get in the way. Adam, hope you're well. Thank you so much. Orc says, we're all sickos. Amen. Rob Brown, Plain Spotting, says, feel your pain, bro. Had the full 9 yards, everything from an MRI to hard echo, then on top loaded up with painkillers and antibiotics. I'm doing my best. Adam says, new hobbies will appear. Amen. Since being unwell, had to resort to window shopping and poor secondhand place, but we'll have to do for now. Amen. Orc says, wear a watch you can afford to trust with someone. Tough decision. That's what I'm saying. But you know what? I'm making the best of it, and it's all going to work out. But anyway, just wanted to give you guys some more clarity that I wasn't just simply throwing my injury and my recovery and my treatment out there just to throw it out there. It's that I really do love these watches. I really do rely on these watches, and it allows me to have one more thing that I can identify with, and that makes me feel like me without having to worry about it. I'm going to tell you right now, if it gets to the point where I can't wear a watch, that's very sad, dude. Like, I'm the time teller. I love watches. It's not just something. I don't just talk. I don't do a show every day because I have to. Because let's be honest, YouTube doesn't pay that much. So I'm doing this because I truly love watches. I love the people that I get to interact with, which are you guys, and they're just fun. They are just fun. Sean Miller, certified T3 bot. What is going on? Orc says, you always remember you deserve to be happy. Rob Brown, Train Spotty says, look for a black dial watch sub 500. Any ideas? Dude, Bull of a Lunar Pilot. Bull of a Lunar Pilot. I'm going to tell you that right now. Bull of a Lunar Pilot. Dope watch. All right, so I don't want to wrap this one up too quickly. Let's do a Q&A for a little bit. You guys have any questions about anything? We can talk about it. Again, I do a daily show Monday through Friday here. Chat, we can wave to the people listening to this in the future. I get it. Not everybody can be here live because, number one, I do these shows at different times of the day. So maybe in the near future, we can kind of solidify a specific time. Still trying to figure out what time works best for you guys. But again, with the way my schedule is working, I have a doctor's appointment, I have to be here, I have to be there. It's kind of thrown a wrench in the works. And then another thing is if you aren't here live, I still would appreciate you commenting and interacting. I do read the comments, and it helps my channel the more you guys interact. So chat, if we could wave to the people in the future, I love you, I see you, and I acknowledge you. And if you don't see a live show, it either means that I had a medical appointment, or it means that we've released an edited video. So the only time you won't see me live is for those one of two reasons. Did any of the new releases from Watches and Wonders catch your attention? Yes, actually. And this might surprise you. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's Hermes. I'm trying to remember. Let me see. If I type in Hermes 2025 watch. Let me see. There was one. They've released a few. And I'm going to do. I think I was going to talk about this perhaps tomorrow. I would like to find it. Let me see. You guys probably know which one I'm going to pick. Right here. Look at this. This is such a cool watch. Hermès à couleur de la lune. They've released some crazy watches this year. I get it. The symmetry is not there. But Hermes is kind of crushing it in the watchmaking world now. They went from leather goods and high-end rich people stuff to leather goods and high-end rich people watches. Dude, writing Hermes off as a simple fashion watch is so stupid. I think these new Hermeses are really cool. Look at that. And this one's interesting. I would like to do a full video on one of these. Cut le temps suspend. Interesting. Let me see if I can get some more. Time suspended. Let me see if I can. Hold on, I'm on Hermes's website. They have to. Let me see. Oh, you know what? These aren't as expensive as I thought they would be. Well, this one is in stainless steel though, so 36 millimeter, $7,100. Is it worth $7,100? Probably not, but 36 mil. 50-hour power reserve, H1912, automatic. Anyway, this isn't even my favorite, but Hermes is crushing it. See, Sean Miller, certified teeth rot. Is Rolex going to put the landlubber movement in all their watches eventually? Should we wait to buy Rolex until they do? I don't necessarily think so. I think what is interesting is, of course, the Silka escapement. Blah, 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 blah. Is it going to be better at regulating the watch with, knocks and shocks? Yeah, sure, I suppose. But if anything, I would wait until Rolex puts that in all their watches so that you can get their other watches cheaper. The watches that don't, because the amount with the friction coefficient, it's smoother. It's better at withstanding certain shocks. It regulates the watch. It allows for easier regulation over different environments. How much realistically are we going to notice as the watch wearer? Probably not that much. I think the coolest thing about the land dweller, is the fact that it is thin. The fact that it is sub 10 mil in a Rolex sport watch is pretty cool. So I think that is the cool thing about it. My wife has multiple sclerosis. I'm sorry, dude. It sucks. I'm taking care of her. People don't know how good they have it. Love your videos. Oh, great teller of time. I'm a fan of your father, too. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I know my dad would appreciate that as well. Seriously, that brightens up my day. King Turtle, nice enough to be worthy of travel, cheap enough to be comfortable everywhere. That's not a bad option, dude. Honestly, that's not a bad option. Doug Rosenthal says, I hear a kitty. Yep. Seiko and Linky are here. They're literally just laying down next to each other in the doorway. Let me see. Tag Formula 1 Solar Graph. Don't know why. Just want one. There's something cheap looking about it. Dude. Okay. We gotta look at this. You know what? Here. I'm actually gonna... This is gonna... Oh my god, my spelling's so bad. Give me a second, guys. I did not mean to do this. Where is it? Where? Oh, okay. Perfect. Okay, so here's what's funny. Hi, Linky. You're funny. So here is these tag Formula Ones. Okay, these solar graphs. There is something cheap about it because these are essentially reissues of 90s tags. Okay, $1,900 for this watch is nasty work. It is that's we don't like that around here. Linky, people want to see you. Oh my god, he's playing with the mic wires. 1 second, let me see if I can get him. Come here, buddy. Look at this big boy. Look at this big boy. My buddy. Can we get a like for Linky? Look at him. He just wants to... He doesn't even care about being on camera. He just wants to be petted. Yes, you hear me talking and you're like, why isn't Dad talking to me? He hears me talking to you guys and he's upset and jealous because he's like, nah, you should be talking to me and me only. Oh my god. Okay. This is a big boy. Like, the camera adds 10 pounds. He's bigger than he even looks, dude. This guy is enormous. Okay, so, and now that I put him down, he's like, why'd you put me down? Why'd you put me down? Okay, here's what is funny about these tags. Whenever I see these tags, this is another thing out of left field. It just reminds me of Friends, like the show Friends, because Ross Geller, David Schwimmer's character, he literally just wears one of these 90s tags, like pretty much the whole show. Shout out Telewatches. It's my buddy's Instagram account. But yeah, and it's really funny because these old Formula Ones, this is actually referenced. I don't want to give anything away. But when Ross sleeps with a certain character, the next morning he regrets it, goes up to that character, and the character is like, is it about the watch that I stole? And he's like, you stole my watch? And then he just glosses over it and they move on. But anyway, when that happened, I was happy because I was like, thank God the chick stole that ugly tag Formula One. Ends up he's like wearing it a couple episodes later, which bothers me because I hate that watch. But anyway, Yeah, it looks cheap because it should be cheap. The reason I think you like it is because there's some nostalgia there. It's like very 90s. Um Linky's upset. I'm with you, Jory. Doug Rosenthal says Hermes has some surprisingly good pieces come out as of late. It's weird. I don't know why. I never took them seriously until I was very interested. One of my friends and viewers had a Hermes watch, the Slim de Hermes. I reviewed it on the channel, and then it kind of just opened my... I was like, dude, I really like these things. So... let me see. Find myself coming across Citizen. If they could produce simple, clean dial, could have absolute banger, ready to fight it out with the best. Citizen stepped up, dude. I think that their pricing is a little off. Some of their watches that I think could be contenders. I think that they're slowly buying into the Seiko hype. So I think Citizen's like, wait, we can make really good watches too. We're going to price them like Seiko, which is bad. Which is very bad, no good. The good thing is most of their Eco Drive watches you can still get very, 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 very affordably. And they're way more functional and way more affordable than anything Seiko makes at this point. So, Orc says, make watches thin again. Amen. So... And this is what's funny. Everyone talks about lug to lug. And the truth is, yes, lug to lug is the number one indicator of how big a watch will look on your wrist. Okay? So diameter is pretty much useless when we're... And this is coming from me. Someone who literally... I have multiple caliper measuring tools on all my desks here. You can't see, but... This desk here has my monitors and the camera set up, and then I have a desk that runs all along here. Like, I have multiple sets of calipers here because I'm always measuring watches, right? If it's not for a review, then it's for something I'm writing. If it's not for something I'm writing, then it's for what do you call it? Inventory bio or something for the shop, yada, yada, yada. But what's funny is diameter doesn't really indicate anything. Lug to lug indicates how big a watch will look when it lays on your wrist. But case thickness, in my opinion, is the number one measurement when it comes to how big a watch will feel on your wrist. And people vastly underestimate that. Vastly. And it's very frustrating because many watch listings, when you go to look at a watch, a lot of watch websites, like from big brands, don't even list the thickness, which is very strange. T3, who's better, Tag or Bulova? It's kind of hard to say who's better, giving me, making a sweeping decision across like just a brand in general. But I will say, because you said Tag, not Heuer itself. We're talking about Tag Heuer. There's more Bulovas that I like than Tags. So I think I'm going to go Bulova. But you guys already knew that I was going to pick that. Citizen owns Bulova. That's true. And Frederic Constant, I believe, still, right? Old Genève, lowest entry point for 14K bands. What up, bro? Any tips on lowest entry point for 14K watches? I see Old Movado, 1K, leather band, reasonable. Old Genève, lowest entry point for... You want 14 karat gold watches. Try to find an old Longines. There's a lot of old Longines, the HF, the high frequency, that you can, they released a bunch in gold, and I'm not talking about gold plating, and you could still get them for a steal. I would say check out old Longines. I actually like the Time and Tide Solar tag. It's just not for me. More questions. More questions, party people. Thank you for answering my question. Anytime, dude. There are a lot of cool vintage Movados, by the way. And one of my favorite eras of Movado was when they were owned by Zenith. The Movado Zeniths, or I should say Zenith Movados out there, were very, very cool. Very cool. I've had a bunch. I've had a bunch at the shop. And they're that whole era, Zenith was incredible and Movado was incredible. Shortly after, unfortunately, I think somewhere just after like 1982, Movado changed hands, and it's the Movado that we have today, unfortunately. What's my favorite recent G-Shock release? This Master of G Mudman. Easily. Rob Brown, if two brands were to collaborate, who would be your choice? That would be so cool. That's a really cool question. I'm going to pick something, and you have to go with me here on this question, okay? If I could pull two brands to collaborate, how cool would this be? Cartier and Rolex. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of boring, right? Rolex? Like, why Rolex? Well, let's look at this logically. What is Rolex known for? Sports watches. Okay. What is Cartier known for? Dress watches. But also very interesting, kind of rule-breaking complications. What is another thing that Rolex is known for? Not taking risks at all, especially with complications. What is Cartier known for? Taking big risks. Okay? So, if we could get, like those 1908s, those new Rolex 1908s, if we could get a Cartier branded 1908 collaboration with some crazy Cartier complications, that would be awesome. That would be so cool. That would be so cool. Because Rolex did the whole rectangular watch thing with their ugly reissues of the Rolex Princes under the Cellini line. The Cellini line sucked. Let Cartier take over the Cellini line, which is now the 1908 line. Give it some crazy rule-breaking, risk-taking designs. And because Cartier will be doing it, it'll actually be cool. And guess what? I love Cartier so much. I love Cartier more than Rolex. I don't think Rolex needs to help Cartier with a damn thing. So that collaboration would only benefit Rolex, by the way. And Cartier doesn't need Rolex's help with anything, because Cartier crushes it. That's a great question, by the way. Surprisingly, I've been doing this for, I think, 7 or 8 years now. No one's ever asked me that question. If two brands were to collaborate. That is insane. I'm actually more mind blown with the fact that question was asked to me over the question itself. That's insane. Great question. And wow. Really cool. Late with the super chat. What are your thoughts on Jack Mason? Ever review one? I haven't reviewed one, but here's the issue. I've done remember like a few years ago, this was like just pre-pandemic. I would do a lot of brand assessments, right? Emphasis on the ass. Assessments. And Jack Mason, or Jack Manson, or whatever that company is, right? Jack Mason. I keep wanting to think of Jackie Mason, who was a stud. One of the best comedians to ever do it. I did a brand assessment, and I came to the conclusion that what they were releasing was like priced 2 to 3 times more than it should be. And they were kind of releasing things that weren't better than any of the Seikos at the time. And the Seikos at the time were cheaper. Now it'd probably be more of a 1-to-1 comparison because Seikos are way overpriced. But yeah, I'd be interested to get one in my hot little hands now in 2025 to see what it's like. Thoughts on Oris as a brand overall? Great. Awesome. I think Oris is very consistent. I think that they make watches with... They make very cool, purpose-built watches. I think the Pro Pilot series is one of their best series ever. I think the Aquas is awesome if it didn't have that stupid integrated bracelet integrated strap system. I think they shot themselves in the foot with that. But great watches from Oris. Now, if there's one watchmaker that I would prefer over Oris, that I think is the, quote, better Oris, it's Zin. I think Zin is the best, in my opinion, when it comes to that like segment of the market. The Oris regulator. One of my friends was getting married, and his wife, his bride-to-be, wanted to get him a watch. And that was the watch that, like, her and I kind of, like, chose for him. She came to me and gave me her price, told me his interests. I gave her a bunch of options, and that's the one that she chose. And I was there when she gave it to him, and he loves it, wears it every day. One of those Oris regulators. How do you get a Zin? With great difficulty. Because the Zins you want sell out fast. And when you find them secondhand, they're very expensive. Is there any time frame for daily worn watches? Like 20, 30 years old is the cutoff point? Or any time frame as long as it still functions? I've never even considered that because I have watches that are older than my parents, right? And my parents are freaking old. I'm just kidding. Hi, Mom. I know she's watching. I have watches legitimately older than my parents. And it kind of doesn't matter. You have to judge a watch on a watch-to-watch basis. And you have to, take its health into consideration. And an age of a watch doesn't necessarily denote its health, right? Because there are modern watches that have been beat to crud that I would not buy, and there are very, very, very old watches that run perfectly. And it's just because of their service history, their repair history, their health, and their environment. So, yeah. Zin is definitely the best for that price point. Can't get a better watch. Just above that would be Tudor. I don't know if Ian's my friend. I don't know if I agree with that last point, though. Just above that would be Tudor. Unless you're talking about the price point. Just above that would be Tudor. But I think Zin has many more interesting models than Tudor. And as far as a brand that I would buy, I'm a fan of Tudor now. I've like kind of done a 180 on that brand. I actually like Tudor. But the issue is, I think there are more watches from Zinn that I like than from Tudor. And Tudor's downfall is they kind of only release one watch. They kind of only release different iterations of one kind of watch. Whereas Zinn, again, they are kind of risk takers, purpose built, very interesting watches. The 3006 Hunting. Google, you know what? I can do it right now. And I know I have a bunch of new viewers. Uh-oh. When I hit the 6, because of the way my hotkeys work, it's going to bring us to everything is gay territory. Wait, I can do it. I can do it without hitting the hotkey. Awesome. I do a podcast. Why is it making me choose the... So stupid. Here we go. Look at this. Tudor ain't releasing anything like this anytime soon. Okay? Tudor ain't releasing anything like this anytime soon. The 3006 Hunting. Dude, this... Okay, in certain areas of the world, you're not allowed to hunt at night with artificial light, which I've never heard of. I'm sure that that's true in the US in certain areas, but I know dudes that do hog hunting in Texas, and they have straight up like $12,000 nod rigs. Like, they're there with their like NVGs and like full battle rattle to go hunt some hogs like in the middle of the night. And they have like suppressed rifles and stuff like that. So, but I guess in Germany, oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm having like a weird nerve thing going on. In Germany, apparently, this watch was developed. Zinn is a German company, and it's I guess they have a rule where you can't hunt at night with artificial light sources. So this watch has a moon phase and lets the wearer know how much moonlight will be present for how long. And it's very cool. Threaded crown, 200-meter water resistance rating. It's a big boy. It's a big watch. But I think that the first Zinn I buy will be this watch, because this is like a dream watch from me. I'm sorry, guys. I'm having like a flare-up right now, so I'm like kind of twitching a little bit, but it's probably uncomfortable to witness. Hey, it's been a minute. Haven't heard Korn in a while. That made me feel better. Why do you think Certina isn't talked about a lot? Here's the issue. Certina is talked about, just not in the US. Here's what's so weird. Market research shows Certina is super popular in Eastern Europe. So all those dudes getting blown up in Ukraine on both sides are probably wearing Certinas. I'm kidding. That's a mean joke. But the truth is, before the war, Certina was very popular in Russia and Ukraine and stuff. And that's just where their market was. Just like it's so strange how Rado is super popular in Pakistan. Like, no one talks about Rado watches here. Pakistan's like their largest demographic. So it's weird. But anyway, the new Captain Cooks look cool, but LMAO brutal. Here for the political incorrectness. I personally love Certina, by the way. Here's the issue, though. I think Swatch Group is eating Seiko's lunch at the moment. The problem is with these large holding groups is they only have so many resources to allocate to each brand, right? And they're going to go path of least resistance. So it's like with Rado, okay, Pakistan loves Rado. Certina, okay, like Eastern Europe loves Certina. Certina is Swatch Group. But like here, for instance, Longines has had like a renaissance Tissot is very strong here in North America. But this is definitely a downfall because I think the North American market would like Certina. Because, dude, you have Powermatic 80 full titanium divers that are ISO rated that you can get for under $1,000 brand new from Certina. And no one talks about them here. But the same thing goes with Mito. Like Mito, the Baroncelli Heritage 3 is one of the coolest. Let me see if I can get a picture. Mito Baroncelli. I think it's the 3. I'm almost positive. I want to find the exact one, though. Whatever. This. I think this is one of my favorite watches, dude. And again, no one really talks about it. Blue hand, really nice custard textured dial. The only thing that I think would have been better, I think they probably shouldn't have given it a date. And at minimum, they should have bordered it. I think the date is not great on this watch, but I love this watch. Again, if they just bordered the date, or you know what I think would look better in this case, if they put the date at the 6 o'clock. If they moved the date at the 6 o'clock here, I think it'd look a lot cleaner, in my opinion, and less like an afterthought. But I'm being nitpicky. This is a beautiful watch. Great. Dude, Mito rules. Mito rules. They're just not popular in the United States. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Jonathan Turner with the Certina history, for those of you interested in that. Okay, Ian has a good question. This is a bit off topic, but I remember you explaining once that the Daytona movement wasn't originally Zenith's, as most try to claim. Can you explain the dilemma? It's been on my mind lately. So, that's a good point. I really like Zenith Daytonas, by the way. One thing that I'm kicking myself over is pre-pandemic, like 2019, you could get a Zenith Daytona two-tone, so like a Rolex with gold on it, for like $12,000 in like great condition, like box and papers. Now it's like that same watch is like $20K, which is like a huge bummer. The issue, right, is I would make fun of Zenith copying Rolex with certain El Primeros. Okay, there are El Primeros that look a lot like Daytonas, and I was critical of Zenith with some other things. Okay, and I forgot which watch specifically I was complaining about, but a bunch of people came into my comment section and relentlessly were attacking me, and they're like, you don't even know that Zenith made the Daytona movement. The Daytona wouldn't be a thing without Zenith. And here's the issue. Yes, for a period of time, Zenith provided Rolex with the El Primero movement, which is an automatic chronograph movement. One of the most important, prolific automatic chronograph movements ever. I get it. I have a watch with an El Primero movement. Okay? It's a great movement. My E-Bell 1911 has a El Primero. Here's the thing. Originally, Rolex used value movements. So if anybody wants to get credit for the Daytona, if we're talking about movement manufacturers, it's value, not Zenith. That is not to besmirch Zenith or the El Primero movement. Notice how I'm being very clear here. I like the El Primero movement. I like Zenith Daytonas. I also understand not everything when it comes to orology and orological history, but when we're looking at the timeline and the history of the Daytona, the Rolex Cosmograph, value are the people who should get the credit. Value made the movement for the Daytona. There were iterations thereon. Then El Primero. Then there were some iterations there. Then in-house. And ever since, it's in-house for Rolex. These are the same people that were on my case when I mentioned that in my 2940, my Rolex Bubbleback 2940, I mentioned it having an in-house movement, and people were like, no, it doesn't. It has an Eigler movement. Okay, why don't you Google the history of Eigler? It's like AMG for Mercedes, but for even a shorter period of time. So for those of you who don't know, AMG is like this tuner, right? This performance shop. And way back when, they worked with various different brands. Then they started working with Mercedes. And Mercedes was like, hey, I really like what these guys do. Why don't we just buy them? And then they can be our in-house performance tuner. And it's kind of like, BMW and M Performance. That's where they started competing. Well, Eigler was a watch movement maker, and then they started working with Rolex, like on my 2940. And Rolex was like, hey, why don't you exclusively make movements for us? And they were like, okay. And so they only made movements for Rolex. And then Rolex eventually just absorbed them. So people were like, but technically, whatever. But good question. Was that Mito 14 karat? No, this Mito's not 14 karat. It's plated, but I would prefer that on this because it's $1,100, which is still more expensive than I think it should be, but it's a good looking watch and you won't have the headache of a gold watch. Dino under construction. I love the Longines. Between the Spirit Zulu and the new Tudor, here's what I will say. In that case, I would say to get the Tudor. And the reason why, lack of crown guards. It's like it's like a Rolex 16570, but even better sizing. It's 39 mil. Dude, I say do that. Best place for watchmaking outside of Switzerland is Japan next. No, outside of Switzerland, it's Germany. It is Deutschland. It's the best watchmaking outside of Switzerland is the motherland of the German people. I think it's Germany. Germany makes awesome watches, and so does Japan. I mean, let's be honest. If we're considering Casio and G-Shock, then it's Japan. But if we're looking at analog mechanical watches, blah 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 blah, I think that Germany is severely underrated. Would you add a Certina or Mito to your collection? Well, I own a Certina, my DS2 Chronolympic, which is not here with me right now, is the watch that my dad was given when he graduated, that he passed down to me. And that watch not only has cool family history, but has a really cool history on its own. Again, we're talking Valjoux chronograph movement. But Certina, back in like the late 60s, early 70s, gave those Chronolympics, those DS2 Chronolympics, to a team of Japanese mountaineers when they did an expedition to Mount Everest. So they summited Mount Everest with those DS2 Chronolympics, and I have one, which is awesome. Another underrated brand, Panerai, granted an acquired taste for some, but some nice models. I'm apprehensive to recommend Panerai currently because they've made a bunch of mistakes. Unless you're talking submersible Bronzo series, big money Panerai, and even then you can get burned. Like, I just would stay away from modern Panerai. I want to see them turn another leaf in a big way. They're making some big changes with their management, their upper management and everything. So we'll see, but you can go back in recent history here on the Time Teller channel, and you can see a bunch of stuff that I really, they've messed up consistently a lot, in my opinion. But guys, we've been here for 57 minutes. I'm going to go ahead. I got to do something for my Patreon. Again, I do a podcast Monday through Friday here on YouTube, over on my other channel, and I do a daily show here on the Time Teller channel, and I also do a show Monday through Friday on Patreon. I'm cranking out the content for you guys, so I will go ahead and see you guys tomorrow. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent